So we're back. I know we usually don't record this kind of this early, but you know, had the time, want to kind of start a bit early while I could. I won't be on tomorrow, so I'm gonna just record this today. All right. Well, glad to see you guys. I'm pretty excited to start into the next area for CSS. We already did HTML mostly in the last session. We haven't done our first project yet. We've just, gone to the basics. So, we'll see where we're at during that time. We're at after all this is done. Alright, so in this next session that we're looking at, we are developing this, looks like a menu. And this is just kind of a preview, it looks like that we're going to build. So, cool. Now, the biggest thing that a lot of people have trouble with is, putting things in the middle, like centering some things. And there are many, many, many different ways to do things within CSS. And, there are some things that are easier and some things that are a lot more difficult. So, hopefully when we get through here, we'll find something that is going to give us a good outline on how to do all this and have a better understanding, so when we do our projects, we'll know how to get everything aligned to where we're wanting it. So, all right. So let's start this up. Start coding. So step 1, as we learned in the last few steps of the cat photo app, there is a basic structure needed to start the building of our web page. All right, so it just wants the so we need the doc type. Basically, it tells the browser to use the best standards for the HTML. We'll put our opening tag for the HTML document with a lang that says that this is in English, and then we will of course put our closing tag for the HTML. Alright, there we go. Nice. So we have now made the basic structure. Now we're gonna have to, of course, add a head, a body, that sort of stuff over time, but so it's looking like we need a head. Oh, oops, I'm getting way ahead of myself. Oh, oops. Okay. So, head, and then we got head. I don't know why it has an auto indent. So, of course, we need the title. Now remember, the head's pretty much all the stuff that contains like the metadata and the links to other places and your title and that sort of stuff. Stuff that's not going to necessarily show up inside the web page, other than, well, it'll show up in the web page. It's not, but how I say it, like this is pretty much like adding sort of some of the designs and telling what the browser kind of what to do, you know, before you're actually like looking at kind of the web page. So we got the title, and looks like we're doing a cafe menu, so we'll add that in here. Alright, so let's check our code. Nice. Look at that. I mean, we're already doing quite alright here in the first few minutes. So let's go to the next one. So we have the title. It's one of the several elements, of course. Not visible on web page, but it's useful for search engines or how the page gets displayed. Exactly. So the head's more or less like the design area, and data for the web page. So now remember, inside the head, we also added the meta tag that gives data to the browser. So charset UTF-8. Okay. And it's self-closing, so you don't need to add, you know, of course, the closing tag. And if you don't know what self-closings are, you need to find out what we did in the last session, because it goes pretty in depth over all these basics. But I mean, if someone really needed to know, I'd tell you. But encouraging to do that. So we'll go ahead. So we have the charset for the UTF-8, the title, and now we need actually going to add a body element. Okay, so going to do the body, so everything that's going to be displayed to the user. Closing tag for body, so everything in between here is now going to be added, going to be shown. I'm sure there's going to be a main. Yep. So we're going to add the main. There we are. So all the main content is going to be inside here. So it's saying our first header element for the H1, we're going to want our title for Camper Cafe. There we go. See? Have it right here. Nice. Good there. Nice. So remember, there's only one H1 tag, so that will be the cafe for the whole thing, or for this web page. Alright, let the visitor know that the cafe was founded in 2020. Add a P element below the H1 element with the text, what? Established. Well, hold on. Before we do that, let's, oh my god. Let's put that in here. Established in 2020. There we go. See? Now it's right here. And don't worry. Now we'll be getting into the parts where it's gonna make it look a lot better here soon. So, of course, we need to add a section. There'll be two sections on the menu, one for coffees and one for desserts. So right here, that's the top. Then we're gonna add this section right here. And then we're gonna add another section. And they'll probably get rid of this, but if there's two, add this one. Now, in here, I'm just gonna show you. Now, this would be section for coffees. Okay, and then, you know, It'll probably get rid of this, but I just do this for best practice. So section for coffees and what else is there? Desserts. Now remember, comments are not going to be going to be shown to the users. This is just for the developers only. So see, now, there you are. See, it got rid of it. Lame. So since this is a subsection, we're going to do the H2 element. So H2 for coffee. There we go. And then the next one will probably be for a dessert. Oh, okay, so we're just going to go with the coffee. Oh, here we go. This is for the CSS. Now we're going to be starting this. So up until now, you have been limited regarding the presentation and appearance of the content you create. So to start taking control, add a style element within the head element. Alright, so now we're going to actually start getting into the better parts. To now, we can actually design these things to make it look what we want. So within here, we're now going to, within the head, we're going to add the style. And then /style. Alright, cool. So this is the biggest thing now. So now that we're going to do CSS, which is the cascading style sheets, to design our web page, you have your style element right here that you're wanting to use, and then you have your properties inside of it that takes an effect on it. So for instance, let's go here. We're going to center our H1 element by setting the text align property to the value of center. Now, how is that going to look? We'll just add H1 because we're targeting this down here, this one right here. And then we're going to add our curly brackets and then the property, which would be the text align. And then we're going to make that center. So see, look at that. Look what we did. So you can target anything right here and it will make any effects on that. So as you can see, the doc type, the HTML we add with the English for the language to let the browser know. We got our head, we got the char set, the title, we got our body, our main, and we have our kind of details starting out. So you can actually switch this for anything you want. So if you wanted everything in the menu to be centered, you can actually select the body, and that'll center everything within this body element. Everything. So, but we don't want to do that yet. We want to just do the H1 for the header. So we'll check that. Nice. And we will go. Alright, cool. So in the previous step, we used a type selector to style the H1 element. Now center the H2 and P elements by adding a new type selector for each one to the existing style element. So if you want to, you can do H. Now you could do this in each one, or you could put a comma. Like instead of making all these separate ones, you could just do H1, H2, and P. And anything that has any of these element tags will do it. It'll probably not want me to do that. Yeah. See? It doesn't want us to change it because it wants you to get used to doing this. But if you do, obviously, the H2, and do the text align center, and then we do a P. Man, if I can type text align center. See? Separate ones. Now, if you want to, that's just to do, make everything centered. But now, if you do label it out this way, you can target different things. So, like, if you want to add more stuff to the P element, you can, or the H2 or the H1, you can make it any way that you want. But if you were just aligning the text, you could just put that comma, and you can just, select all you want for that. Or what you want the same to be. So now you have 3 types of selectors with the exact same styling. You can add the same group of styles. Yep, and this is what we were talking about, adding the comma to many elements by creating a list of selectors. Each selector is separated with commas. So delete this. So like we did previously, the H2 and P does the exact same thing. See? And it cuts down on the amount of code that you put in. Cool. So you have styled 3 elements by writing CSS inside the style tags. This works, but since there are many more styles, it's best to put all these styles in a separate file and link to it. So see, we have our HTML right here that we created. Now we're going into a style CSS element that you put right here. So instead of putting it in here in the style, typically people will just link to this file instead. So alright, we have created a separate styles.css file, so notice that this is a .html and this is the .css file for you to switch the editor view to that file, and you can change between files with the tabs at the top of the editor. So start by rewriting the stars you have created in the style CSS file and make sure to execute the opening and closing style tags. Exclude, sorry. So all this stuff that we had, we can Control X this to cut, get rid of all the styles because we don't need that anymore. And then we go into our CSS and we'll put it in here. Yay, we did it. So go to the next challenge. So now that we've done that, you have the CSS in the style.css file, go ahead and remove the style element. Okay. So pretty much we gotta do what we just did. We gotta remove this. And all its contents. Once it's removed, the text was centered and will shift back to the left. Right, because it's all gone. Now, if you have noticed, we've written this inside here, but nothing is happening. And that's because we need to create a nested self-closing link element in the head element. Give it a relationship attribute value of style sheet, relationship or relative style sheet, and an hyperreference attribute value of style.css. So how that looks is we got this. So we got a link element and we got the rel. So what is this? It's a style sheet. That's what the CSS is. It's a style sheet. Then we got the href for a hyperreference to the style.css, or wherever this file would be located inside. So there you go. Relationship value attribute value of style sheet. and an href of styles. Yep, you gotta make sure these, if you've noticed, if you don't put it exactly, it's not gonna make it. So the s.css. So where is it because I put this in here? Oh, okay. So it's okay. Just means you're going into I guess a folder down, but I wouldn't. Okay, either way, so you gotta make sure your link right here, like the reference of location where it's at, is exact. If it's in the same place as your web element, so if your HTML code is in the same location as your styles, then all you have to do is just list this name. But if it's in different folders, then you start actually having to, you start drilling down or up and then drilling down to get to where you need to go to access your files. Like there might be a folder for HTML, then there might be a folder for CSS, and you have to navigate to where the locations are for it to work correctly. Alright, so we are good on that end. Everything's center. Nice. Now, for the styling of the page to look similar on mobile as it does on a desktop or laptop, you need to add the meta element with a special content attribute. So, underneath this meta right here, we'll just put another meta. Oh, oops. Oh my god. I swear. So the name is going to be viewport. So this is this is a very important piece in your code. It basically mimics, it basically is viewable on mobile devices. So we will do viewport content, and then the width is going to equal the device that you're on, and then put width equal the device width. Initial scale is 1.0, and then we will close this. There you go. So now, if you view this on your phone, it should make it equally viewable to make the styling look exactly like a desktop, but on the phone. So we'll check that. We are good. Alright. Now we're back in the styles.css sheet. The text is centered again, so the link to the CSS file is working. Add another style to the file that changes the background color property to brown for the body element. Alright, so we're going to add a body. Alright, and then background color is going to be brown. See? There you go. Even though that looks more red to me, but oh well. See? We grabbed the body element, and then we made the whole page, well, quite frankly, it looks more red. But I guess that's the brown it wanted. So that brown background makes it hard to read the text, right? Change the body element's background color to be burly wood so it has some color, but you're still able to read the text. Burly wood. Alright. Nice. Or you can change the color of the text later, but It's up to you. So we got the burly wood. Body's changed. Nice. Alright, the div element is used mainly for design layout purposes, unlike the other content elements you have used so far. Add a div element inside the body element, and then move all the other elements inside the new div. So does it just want me to do this then? So if people who don't know what div is, it means a divider. It just puts a divider before between everything else. So that way you only select things that are inside this divider. Okay, what does it want? Inside the body element. And then move all the... Oh, wait. Inside the... So even the main? So it wants it here. Okay. So as if you notice, you can put the divider literally anywhere you want. So okay. So the goal now is to make the div not take up the entire width of the page. The CSS width property is perfect for this. So create a new type of selector in the style sheet that gives your div element a width of 300 pixels. Okay, so let's go ahead for the div. We're going to do a width and make it 300 pixels. Oh, and don't forget to end the to close it. So if you can see, it condenses that width or whatnot to only 30 pixels. So we'll have to move this eventually, and we'll probably have to do a well, we'll see what happens. I'm sure it'll show you how to center it. So we're good there. So so we already figured out what the comments are in here, you know, the exclamation point that we did, the left angle bracket, the exclamation point, and then 2 dashes, whatever you want, and that. But in CSS it's different. So it actually looks like this in that example right here. So in your style sheet, comment out the line containing the background color property and value so you see the effect of only styling div element. This will make the background white again. Okay. So in CSS, to make a multi-line comment, like if you want to make it on multiple lines, it would be right here. See, now it's all white. And you can put this on a new line. So if you want everything in between here, this is a new line. New line. See, you can make as many as you want. So we did. So there's another way. Then you have these, and then you have single line comments. So this is a single line comment. So if you don't want, I wonder why that's giving that there. Shouldn't be. But anyway, this is a double line, this is a multi-line, this is a single. So we'll check this. Congratulations. Yes, yes, congrats. Okay. Now use the existing div selector to set the background color of the div element to the burly wood. So, okay. Burly wood. So see the big difference in the body? It makes everything like that, and then inside the div selector, it only constitutes anything that's inside that div. Everything else does not get modified. So that's cool. That's all good. Now it's easy to see the text is centered inside the div element. Currently the width of the div element is specified in pixels. So change the width property value of to be 80% to make it 8% the width of its parent element. Okay, so instead of 300 pixels, we're going to put 80%. There. See, it just made it wider. So now we'll check that, and we're good. So, if you wanted to see, because of the device width, well, okay, I guess it won't do it on here. But you can see how it, if you can see right here, how it's condensing based on the screen width. That would be, one, your viewport, but also it's always going to consistently be 80% no matter what it is, what device you're on. So I'll check this. We're done with that challenge. Next, you want to center the div horizontally, and you can do this by setting the margin left and margin right properties to auto. So margin as invisible spaces around an element. Using these two margin properties, center the div elements with the body element. So your margins are pretty much like, if you think of like Microsoft Word, they just kind of put like buffers and spaces in between, like it said. So we could do margin left be auto and margin right auto. There you go. So now it is directly in the center, and whenever this condenses, oh, well, you can see it's always going to remain consistently in the middle. Cool. So, alright. So, I'm going to go to the next challenge. So far, you've been using type selectors to style elements. Alright, now we're getting into classes. A class selector is defined by a name with a dot directly in front of it like this. Change the existing div selector into a class selector by replacing div with a class name menu. Alright, so we'll see right here. So instead of the div, we're going to have dot menu, and this is a class selector. Now, you're probably wondering, okay, where's all the stuff going, and what's the purpose of this? So let's go to the next page. So right here within the div, now in order for that to select, we're going to now add a class attribute. And then here, we're going to give it the value of menu. So see, as soon as we did that, it reapplied all those settings. So see, this class right here, so you can add a class to any element, and anything with this class will have those same properties that you give to the element. So check that, and you can tell it's working because of this right here. And yeah, see, all you had to do was, instead of adding the element selector, you just add a dot in front of it, and you type the class name. Cool. Alright. Ooh. Knocking some of these mostly out of the park. So submit and go to the next challenge. So since the cafe main product for sale is coffee, you could use an image of coffee beans for the background of the page. So we'll delete this comment. And we will put delete the comment and its contents instead of the body type selector. And excuse me. Now we're gonna add background image, and then within here we're gonna add the URL. We should probably type this one out since it's new. So the URL of this. Let's see how it's going to the location. Now see, now the whole screen is coffee beans. Just by adding the background image to the body element. Alright, we check it. Clearly we know it's working. Submit and go to the next one. So it's looking good. Time to start adding some menu items. So add an empty article element. Under the coffee heading, and will contain a flavor and price of each coffee you currently offer. So alright. So we'll add the article. Element tag. And then article elements commonly contain multiple elements that have related information. In this case, it will contain a coffee flavor and a price for that flavor. So nest 2 P elements inside your article element. The first one's text. So P will be French vanilla. P. And then we have another P element that is $3. All right. Says we're looking good. Now start below the existing coffee price pair. Add the following coffee and prices using article elements with 2 nested P elements inside each. As before, for the first P element text should contain the coffee, and then the second one take the price. So, okay. So, all right. So while we're doing this, remember the work hard, not smarter rule? No. Work smarter, not harder. I got that mixed up. Whew. So 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay. 3, 4. So we have 4. Now we're gonna change these. To gotta see what we have. Caramel caps, man. Caramel macchiato, and that is $3.75. Then we make the next article. This is going to be pumpkin spice And then we're gonna add 350 to that. Then we have hazelnut. 350. Oh no. Oops, I was looking at the wrong one. $4. And then the last one would be a mocha. For $4.50. Okay. Looks good. So we have everything right here. Alright. We'll submit and go to the next challenge. Alright, the flavors and prices are currently stacked on top of each other and centered with their respective P elements. It'd be nice if the flavor was on the left and the price was on the right. So add the class name flavor to the French vanilla P element. Okay, so class flavor. And okay. And then we're gonna have another one that says price, I bet. Oh, okay. So we only have to do that. So using your new flavor, okay, so now we're in the style CSS. We're gonna be adding our new one. So we're wanting to get the flavor, class selector, and we want to make it the property text align and to the left. Ta-da! And then I guarantee you we'll have like we'll have to add the price selector at some point. There we go. So we'll add a class to this one, to the price. And then within here, we'll add a dot price selector with the text align right. Not exactly on point if you ask me. But maybe it'll clear this up. Should. Okay. Yeah, that is kind of what you want, but now it would be nice if the flavor and price were on the same line. Exactly. So, P elements are block level elements, so they take up the entire width of their parent. So yeah, so you see this right here, that's a block, this is a block. So, to get them on the same line, we need to apply some styling to the P elements, so they behave more like inline elements. So, they'll be, like we learned in the last lesson, they'll be on the same inline, will be on the same element as it's relative to the element underneath it. So we need to apply some kind of styling to the P elements so they behave more like inline elements. Add a class attribute with the value item to the first article element under the coffee heading. So article class item. All right. So each article is an item. So the P elements are nested inside an article element with the class attribute of item. You can style all the P elements nested anywhere in the elements with a class name item like this. So you have the class selector and then targeting the all P elements inside inside that element. Using the above selector, add a display property with the value inline block so the P elements behave more like inline elements. Okay. So we will do a dot item, P. Alright, so now we are targeting the P elements, and then display inline block. So see, now look at that. They're all on the same line. That's closer, but the price didn't stay over on the right. This is because inline block elements only take up the width of their content. To spread them out, add a width property to the flavor and price class selectors that have a value of 50% each. Okay. So, flavor is going to have a width of 50%. And the width, this one will be 50%. Okay. Well, that didn't work. Styling the P elements as inline block and placing them on separate lines in the code creates an extra space to the right of the first P element, causing the second one to shift to the next line. One way to fix this is to make the P element's width a little less than 50%. So change the width value to 49 for each class to see what happens. Yeah, that might be too much. So 49. 49. Alright. Now they're on the same line. Nice. So we'll go to the next challenge. That worked, but there's still a little space on the right of the price. You could keep trying various percentages for the widths. Instead, use the backspace key on your keyboard to move the P element with the class price next to the P element with the class flavor so that they are on the same line in the editor. Make sure there's no space between them. So, the same line. There we go. Okay, so then go to challenge. Now go ahead and change both the flavor and price class width to 50% again. Alright, there we go. Perfect. Now they're both have the same, they're both bumped up against each side. Okay. Go to the next challenge. Now that you know it works, you can change the remaining article and P elements to match the first set. Start by adding the class item to other articles. So class item. Class item. Class. See how every time we add it, it reformats each one of them. Item and class item. There we go. Now it's gonna make us do it individually. Now, next position, all of them. So there's no spaces in between. Okay. There we go. And then we're going to add the flavor and price to all of them, to all these P elements. So for the flavors. So class flavor. So let's do this. Since we're going to be doing this with each one of them, we'll start with this first. Pumpkin spice, right here. Hazelnut and mocha. And then we're going to add, right here, the class price. Let's copy that. Add right here. Add right here. And add right here. Great. Now they're all on their own separate individual lines. And, well, they're on the same line, but now everything is tied together. Alright. If you make the width of the page preview smaller, you will notice at some point some of the text on the left starts wrapping around to the next line. This is because the width of the P element on the left side can only take up 50% of the space. Since you know the prices on the right have significantly fewer characters, change the flavor class width value to be 75% and the price class width to be 25. So, okay. 5, and this will take up 25%. Oh, oops. So now, this right here takes up 75%. This takes significantly lower. So if we start lowering it, see, it'll actually do this. Whereas if we were at 50%, this is what it was talking about. Eventually, it's going to wrap. Well, take my word for it. At some point, it's going to start wrapping. Oh, right here. That's where it's showing. The caramel macchiato. See? The more closer it gets, since it's 50%, it has to close it around. So, in order to prevent this from happening, we will do the 75%. So that's why. We do this 75, and then we do this 25. See? Now we can keep going smaller, and this won't... this won't wrap. The text won't wrap. Alright, check it. Good to go. Nice. You'll come back to styling the menu in a few steps, but for now, go ahead and add the second section element below the first for displaying the desserts offered by the cafe. So we'll add another section. So, mind you, this is where we would put, like, comments and stuff, so that way everything's not just so jumbled together. And it's easier to find where your stuff's at. Okay. So we have those in there. Add an H2 element that says, hey, this is desserts. Cool. Good there. And then we'll start doing what we did the last time. Article. An article with a class attribute of item. Go ahead and run that. Nice. So now we have a new article for another for each individual item. All right. We will submit. Go to the next challenge. Nest two P elements inside your article element. First one text should be donut, and the second text is the price. So see if, yeah. So we'll do this for donuts. And then we'll put another P element for the price, 150. And close that those paragraphs off. Check. Looks good. Alright. So for the first P, we add a class for dessert. So, okay. So this will be class because these are desserts and they're not flavors. So dessert. And then you have a class for price. Okay. So right here, our price is still the same if you remember. So this carries over from the ones up here. So you have your price class up here, and all of those properties transfer over to here. So if something does not look right, you add the correct class attribute value to the P element with the donut as its text, but you have not defined a selector for it, right? Since the flavor class selector already has the properties you want, we'll just add the desert to it as well. So there you go. See? So we did pretty well. Got our widths correct. Got everything that we need. Alright. Go to the next challenge. Below the dessert you added, add the rest of the desserts and prices using 3 more article elements, each with 2 nested P elements. Should have the correct dessert and price text, and all of them should have the correct classes. So what we're gonna do is we need to make 3 more. 1, 2, 3. What the heck? 1, 2, 3. Okay. The indentations, man. So this one's going to be cherry pie with a value of $2.75, not 52. Don't want $52. All right, so cherry pie. We have the cheese cake. Price is $3. And then we have the last one, which is a cinnamon roll. With $2.50 as the price. Nice. So, as you can see, this menu is now looking pretty good. Submit and go to the next challenge. Alright, you can give your menu some space between the context and the sides, right? With various padding properties. So we've already done margin, which is from the outsides right here of the elements, but now we need to add spaces on the inside. So when we do this, we're now going to do a padding. So padding left will be 20 pixels, and then we'll do a padding right 20 pixels. See? Now we have a little bit of space in between, and this is all within the menu, within the div. that we had. So everything within the menu, this is what it looks like. So we got that. Nice. Yeah. Alright, I think we're good with that. That looks better. Okay, now try to add the same 20 pixel padding to the top and bottom of the menu. So we have obviously the padding left, right, top, 20 pixels, and then padding bottom, 20 pixels. Alright, so if you notice the trend here, all of these, every single thing is the same. Now, if we're doing that, you could just add, instead of having all these, we can just add padding and just give it a value of 20 pixels. See, you could just do it like that if everything is the same. But I'm sure you'll discuss that in the next one. Since all four sides of the menu, so this is what we just discussed in the last one. So what we're going to do is get rid of the paddings, all of these, and we're just going to go ahead and write padding 20 pixels. See? Now you didn't even have to write all that text. You now have just one element. So you're not having to keep track of all those other ones. So if you ever did want to do this, like top, bottom, left, and right, you could just do, now, if you wanted them different, different lengths, you can do that, 20 pixels, 40 pixels. So this is the top and bottom, and then this would be the left and right here. See how, you notice how wider it got? 45. Now you're saying, okay, I want things to be different. So I want 20 pixels from the top, 40 pixels to the right. The bottom, we would want, 20 pixels. Well, let's say we want 35 pixels on the bottom. And then we want on the left 25 pixels. So see, this is how this would work. You can write it like this. Instead of writing 4 of them, you can just do it this way. But let's just put this back to 25 pixels overall, or 20. Alright, so now the current width of the menu will always take up 80% of the body, right? Element's width. On a very wide screen, the coffee and dessert appear far apart from their prices. So, okay, if they're, extremely huge on a very, very wide screen, this is going to appear like way over here. This could appear way over here. Now, we need to have a condition that says like, hey, when things are this big, we need to tighten this up a little bit. So we're going to add this is where the max width comes in. So add a max width property to the menu class with a value max width property to the menu class. So we want to make sure the max width is 500 pixels. So that way, if anything ever gets too big, it's always going to consistently be 500 pixels. It's not going to, the menu is not going to go any bigger than 500. See? Check it. All right, we're good. So remember, if we took this out and did this again, see how far out that goes? It's going to be way too far. So we'll just go ahead and add this back in. So now, as you've seen, we'll keep that. So we'll go to the next one. Now, you can change the font family of text to make it look different from the default font on your browser. So each browser has common fonts available to it. So what we'll do is we'll add the font family property, and you can make this sans serif. See? And it changes everything in the body to match that. If you want, you could also do like Times New Roman, but I think that's like the default anyway. Arial, see, but it wants us to do sans serif. Now, let's say that this one doesn't work, like on some browsers. Well, crap, what do we do at that point? You know, you could add, I guess, another font family value or property, and that might work. But in instances like that, you'll just put a comma, and you'll add a second one. So if this doesn't work, then the Arial will take over. So that's a good thing to know as well. So submit that. Alright, it's a bit boring for all the text to have the same font family. You can still have the majority of the text sans serif, so everything in the body will have, you know, sans serif, but if you want a specific element to have something different, we can do that. So style both the H1 and H2 elements so that only these elements use the impact font. So we'll do the H1, and then remember how to select 2. We'll do that. And then we will do the font family impact. There you go. See? So now you notice that all the majority of the text on here is sans serif, but the headers are now impact. So give me a moment. That's so cute. Just saw a picture that my in-laws got of their my daughter and her cousin from when they were, you know, way much younger. It was cute. Okay. So we're done with this. We're already on step 58. That's pretty, we've gone pretty far. So, alright, we've done that. Now you can add a fallback value, like this is what we were talking about. So if some browsers don't support the impact, we want to make sure this goes back to, that this goes to serif. So that way it is a different style from everything else, but we know that serif is accepted by all browsers, or at least most browsers. So it just gives a fallback just in case. All right. So I think we're good on that. Submit and go to this next challenge. All right. So we'll now make the established state text italicized by creating an established class. So we'll make the established selector, and then we will give it a font style of italic. All right, and then I guarantee we're going to go in there into the text, into the index HTML, and we're going to add it. So now in here we will give it the class of established. Ta-da! Now if you look on here, it's italicized. There you go. So we'll be done with that. The typography of heading elements is set by default values of users' browsers. Adding two new type selectors, H1 and H2, use the font size property for both, but use the value 40 pixels for the H1 and 30 pixels for the H2. So, as you know, yeah, like what it's saying is these are just by default how they should be. But if you want to customize it, you can do, we don't want that text necessarily that big. We want the font size to be 40 pixels instead. To make it a little bit bigger. And then we will do the header, the subheader, the header 2, we will do a font size of 30 pixels. So there we go. So now we added them a bit bigger, so that way it actually looks more like a menu. Alright. Remember, that's a font size. So look, eventually this is gonna, you're gonna have tons and tons of these. And you'll have to search around, and you'll have to start putting things, wherever you can see fit. There is some there is some type of ordering, like you can order, all class elements in one area, and you can order all element selectors in another, so you can order them separately. So you can just keep those separate, but you can also keep them near relatively elements. You can not elements but selectors. You can order all these selectors however you want. And you can determine your own way of how you want to order these. So that makes the best sense for you. So now that we have all of these, we'll go ahead and add the footer after the main. So we're good there. Is there anything we have to add in it? Okay. So we'll submit that, and within the footer, we'll add a P element, and then nest and anchor, href, and add to here. Visit our website. /p. Oh, and we have to close the anchor tag. So there we go. See? Visit our website. And this is automatically set to the middle because of the And have a menu. So there would be the text align property, but we put that in the main. Or hold on. Ah, that's right, because we made the H1, H2, and the P elements all centered. So that's why this right here is centered. Okay. Just want to double check that. There we go. Add a second P element below the one with the link and give it the text 123 FreeCodeCamp drive. So P 123 FreeCodeCamp drive. There you go. You can use a horizontal element to make a divider between sections of different content, or the HR element. So we would want to put one between the P element with the class established. Okay, so we'll want to put one right here. So HR for horizontal line, and then we can put one first section, and they're self-closing, so we can put one right there. There we go. And then we can style the HR element and give it a new property. We can change the height to 3 pixels to make it more in depth. See how that's a little bit bigger now. So you have your width you can make, and then you have your height properties. So change the background color of the HR element to brown. So see? Easy. So we have this, that's brown, and then we can do the next one. So if you can see right here, you can still see the border line on this. So, and it's kind of looks like a gray color or a white. So we can do border line brown. Oh, border color, not border. Sorry. Border color. There you go. So now it gets rid of it, and it's one solid kind of color. So now we'll check that. Good on that one. Nice. Alright, notice how the thickness of the line looks bigger. The default value of a property named border width is 1 pixel for all edges of HR elements. So it's 1 pixel from the left and the right. By changing the border to the same color as the background, the total height of the line is 5 pixels. Change the height property of the okay, so notice how the thing is same color as the. So by changing the border to the same color as the background, the total height of the line is 5 pixels. Okay. Now that we changed it, we want it to be 2 pixels, so the total height becomes 4 pixels. So make this 2. I got it. I was kind of confused reading that for a second, just trying to interpret that. So yeah, since we changed it, it made it 5 pixels because of the border, and now that we changed it to the same, it looks like one solid color. So even though we put 3 pixels, it looked 5. So now we put 2 pixels, and now it has a 4 pixel height. So go ahead and add another HR element between the main element and the footer element. So we'll put another one right here. There we go. So you have one up here, and you have one down here, and then you have all your menu items here. Alright. So to create a little bit more room around the menu, add 20 pixels of space on the inside of the body element by using the padding property. Okay. So we'll add padding, 20 pixels. There we go. So now we have a little bit more room around the menu. All right. So add a little bit more to the bottom right here, and add some more room at the top, a little bit around. So it looks really good. So focusing on the menu items and prices, there is fairly large gap between each line. Target all the P elements nested in elements with the class named item. So right here. And set their top and bottom margin to be 5 pixels. Yeah, so right here. So if we want to make them smaller, we have to actually explicitly make the margin. So margin. Now, you can do margin top and margin bottom, but if we just add margin and put 5px and then 5px. Oh, that's for the left and right. So you would have to do 5 pixels for the top, 0, 5, 0, 5. So see, if you got rid of this, so it says the top and bottom are 5 and the left and right are 5. So that's why we have to make the left and right 0 and then the top and bottom 5. So you can do it like this. It'll probably say you can't because it wants us to explicitly do top. Okay. Alright, never mind. But if you do margin top, you can margin bottom, you can just give it 5 pixels and it'd be the same. But see, just know this is top, bottom, or this is top, right, bottom. But if you put it this way, this makes it top and bottom 5, left and right 5. So you have to explicitly give it what it wants. So there we go. Using the same style selector in the previous step, make the font size of the items and prices larger by using a value of 18 pixels. So we'll do font. Oop. I kind of want to put it up here because this is where the display is. No, never mind. We'll keep those elements together. So font size 18 pixels. There we go. So they're a little bit bigger. Next challenge. Changing the margin bottom to 5 pixels looks great. However, now the space between the cinnamon roll menu item and the second HR element does not match the space between the top HR element and the coffee heading. So add some more space by creating a class named bottom line. Okay. So we'll add bottom line. And using 25 pixels with a margin top property. So 25 pixels. There we go. And then we'll have to add this to the HR element. Because the margin top, you want it to push it up from the top. So we'll add the class bottom line. So there we go. Sometimes you just want to add like a class to, you know, everything you can. Sometimes you want to do that. So that way, whenever you get to the CSS, you can target every item in there. Unless you're doing stuff like this, then you would use like the same classes. So we will check our code. We are good on that. Next, you're going to be styling the footer element. Alright, to keep the CSS organized, add a comment at the end of styles.css with the text footer. Okay, so we're going to actually add it. Okay, so we will add footer. Oh, footer. It's not going to let us do that, so we'll just go ahead and do this, and we will just do it like that. There we go. So now within the footer, right here, moving down the footer element, make all the text have a value of 14 pixels for the font size. So we're going to need to select the footer element and the font size to be 14 pixels. There we go. So we'll submit that. So the default color of the link that has not been clicked is typically blue. The default color of a link that has already been visited is typically purple. So now to make the footer links the same color regardless if the link has been visited, use a type selector for the anchor element and use the value black for the color property. What? Okay. So we will do the footer and then we're going to use the A because that's what we're targeting, is the hyperlinks, and then we're going to set the color to black. There you go. Now see, it changes it to blue and purple and just makes it black and still keeps the underline, showing that it's still a hyperlink. To make the footer links the same color regardless if the link has been visited, use a type selector for the anchor element. What? Are we just gonna do A? Okay. So I guess if you just put A, that's going to select every element or every hyperlink and make it this. So be aware of that. If you just want it within the footer, you have to explicitly say footer, and then you want the A element, and then that will specifically target that. All A elements within that. So we'll submit, go to the next challenge. You change properties of a link when the link has actually been visited by using a pseudo selector. Oh, link when the link has actually been visited by using a pseudo selector that looks like a visited. Okay, and then the property name, property value. Change the color of the footer visit our site link to be a gray when a user visited the link. Okay, so what that means is oh, sorry, got that. Alarm went off. So we'll do an A, and then visited, and then we want the color to be gray. So when we click this, it's going to be gray. Well, see, it's already showing that for us, that what it looks like when it's already clicked. So it's a little kind of hard to see. Link when the okay, so you change properties of a link when the mouse hovers over them by using a pseudo-selector that looks like a hover. Property name, property value. So change the color of the footer visitor website's link to be brown when the user hovers over it. So we'll do, okay, a hover, and then we're going to change it to color brown. So now, when we go on here and we hover over it, see, it is now changing our color. Oh, I guess you can't see that. Let me edit this real quick. Okay. So if you can see down here now, down here, this is when you hover over this, it'll actually show. Depending on where it is, I should probably keep my probably for future things, I should probably keep this probably up here. Would that be a good spot? At least until we get somewhere else. This would probably be a good spot so you can see everything on the left and the right. Maybe should have been doing this at the beginning. Probably been easier for you guys to see, but you know, you just have to, you learn. Okay. So now we'll go to the next one. All right. So you change properties of a link when the link is actually being clicked by using a pseudo-selector that looks like active. Change the color of the visitor side to be white when clicked on. Okay, so so instead of saying clicked, it just means active. So, and we will do the color white. So, all right, so we did that. Now, I'm going to click this and see, it's active right now since we clicked it. It says normally this link would bring you to another website. It works. This is a link to this site right here. So, okay. So see, we can do the hover, and when we click on the active, it'll actually tell you that, you know, the link has been clicked and it's active. At least in here, it'll actually tell you, it'll actually bring you to the site if you do it in an actual real working production application. Alright, so to keep with the same color theme, you've already been using black and brown. Change the color for when the link is visited to black and use brown for when the link is clicked. So, brown. And then we will do black. Okay. So even though it's visited or not, it's going to keep this. And then when we hover over it, as you can see, it's going to still keep that brown. And when we click, it's still going to keep this, that brown as well. Because, you know, we don't want, we want to keep consistency. So there we go. 84. The menu text Camper Cafe has a different space from the top than the address space at the bottom of the menu. This is due to the browser having some default top margin for the H1 element. So change the top margin of the H1 element to 0 to remove all top. Okay, so margin top, put 0. There you go. So we still have the padding from everywhere else, but we're keeping the margin the same because it automatically produces that. We'll submit. To remove some of the vertical space between the H1 element and the text, the established 2020 text, change the bottom margin of the H1 to 15 pixels. So remember, we can do top and bottom. But since we already have the margin top, we'll just do the margin bottom and make that 15 pixels instead. See how it went up a little bit? If you didn't notice, we'll just go ahead and see. There's your change. Alright. So I'm going to go to the next challenge. Now the top space looks good. The space below the address at the bottom of the menu is a little bigger than the space at the top of the menu in the H1 element. To decrease the default margin between space between the address element, the element, create a class selector name address. So we'll do, okay, so class selector address, and then we're gonna give it the margin bottom of 5 pixels. And then we're gonna add the address to the right here to the P element. So with a class address. So let's see. There we go, see? Right here. If you look right here, you notice like a subtle difference. But yeah. So we're just tightening up all these edges and making it look pretty good. So that way, as you can see, when we condense these down, you can see that all of these are, it's still keeping most of its constraints on a phone. So we'll check. So we can go to the next challenge. So right here, the menu looks good, but other than the coffee beans background image is mainly just text, right? Under the coffee heading, add an image using the URL here and give an image of alt of coffee icons. So if we learn from the last session, we're going to do the image source of where it's located, and we will put the location in here, and then we will do an alt of coffee icon. And since it's self-closing, we don't have to have a closing tag. And then we will go ahead and check. Nice. Now, default is all the way to the left. So we can add a, make the image behave like the heading elements, which are block level. Create an image, okay. An image selector, type selector, and use the value block for the display property. So display block. Okay. So these image elements are inline elements. So they're going to just automatically, try to go on the same line as some others elements. So we want to prevent this and make it to display as a block. Well, we'll create an image style selector, block for display, and use the margin left auto and the margin right auto. So there we go. Now we put it right in the middle. All right. And there is our little image. So we'll check it. Looks good. Do the same for the desserts. We'll add an image element, a source of this, location, and we will add the alt of pie icon. And since it's self-closing, we'll do this. There we go. Now see how we made the image in there? Since we made the image selector, we used an explicit element selector. Now all elements will actually center themselves, like we had done. Alright. Next challenge. It would be nice if the vertical space between the H2 elements and their associated icons was smaller. The H2 elements have a default top and bottom margin space, so you could change the bottom margin of the H2 elements to say 0 or another number. There's an easier way. Simply add a negative top margin to the image elements to put them up from their current positions. Negative values are created using a dash in front of the value. So to complete this project, go ahead and use a negative top margin of 25 pixels in the image type selector. So we can just do it right here. So margin top. Now remember, we want a negative for it to go up, and we want it to be 25 pixels. So see, there we go. And ta-da, we had done it. Well, we already did all this. So now we are in the final, now in the next project. I gotta move this back so you guys can see what I'm talking about. Let's bring it back over here. Okay. Okay. So we'll go ahead and save that. So, preview of the next project we'll build. Now, CSS colored markers. So, this is kind of a preview of what we'll build right here. So, seems to be drawing. So we're going to be just drawing right here. So, alright. Hitting an hour and 55 for this session. All right, I think we will probably hold off for any more right here. I think normally it's 2 hours is the limit. So does anyone have like any questions kind of up until this point? Like anything like more kind of details about like some of the selectors or anything? Well, selectors or anything that has to do with like, you know, the CSS. All right. Well, I think we will save this for the next session. We will be continuing learning CSS colors by building a set of colored markers. So we've already developed a whole menu this last time. Learned a lot of different stuff. How to align text, you know, set the properties of, you know, elements, how to create those elements, how to you know, use like how to make a CSS document, like, you know, how to make selectors and that sort of stuff, adding classes. So there's another thing. So you have classes as a selector. Now, if you look on here, there's another way that you can use those. Instead of classes, you can actually use IDs, which we did in the last session. You can make IDs for each unique element. And in order to select those, because I know people might ask, like, okay, we know how to select classes and we can use those for multiple, but what if we want to just target like an ID, like just a unique one, only one element is going to have this ID, and nothing else. You know, how will we, you know, select those? So it's not going to be, you know, you don't just type the name, you don't put a dot. Instead, you'll actually put a hashtag, and you put like a selector, and then you put your brackets, your curly braces. So instead of a dot, you just put a hashtag, and that's it. So anytime you want to do that, you can. All right, so I think we're good here. I think did a pretty decent bit. Started a bit earlier today, so, and you know, normally, like, if I didn't have other things like that I had to get done and all do, you know, I would stay a little bit longer and probably do this next session of CSS, but we're just going to leave it this way for now. And I'm going to cut it off at 2 hours. Usually that's how typically I want to keep like kind of these streams going, so that way, you know, I know some people need time to digest that information that they've learned. But yeah, this will be up on YouTube, on my channel. So if anyone else wants to like review this sort of stuff again, you can go ahead and do that. I believe that should be on my Twitch channel of my YouTube page. I do want to thank Nat Zelly for sticking around the whole stream, and you know, thanks for joining, and I hope you learned some a decent bit. I think you were actually here yesterday too, so I'm pretty happy that you're actually, you know, consistently following along with this. So hopefully you'll be able to earn, this whole certificate whenever you, whenever we get done, and hopefully future certificates. So, all right. Well, thank you guys very much. You guys have a good night. I won't be streaming tomorrow night. I got some other things going on, but I'll try to be back on Sunday. So stay tuned for that. It'll probably be at the regular time, around 9. So we'll do that. All right. Well, have a good night. Look forward to the next session.